Hi, I'm Lee. Welcome to the channel. I hope you're having a lovely day. I'm a short, overweight, middle-aged white dude. I've got thinning brown hair, black gloss, I'm wearing a blue t-shirt with my logo on it. Pretty cool, right? And I'm sitting in someone else's Model X because in this video, oh boy, are we going on an adventure. So you've come in, I've brought you in a little bit late, I'm afraid, because it's been a very rushed morning. So this is my mate Mark here, and Mark, amazingly, has converted the Delorean in the trailer behind us to electric. Now, it's not 100% finished, otherwise we'd just be driving the DeLorean, but Mark had it out on display at the Grand Prix, and we're now driving it back up to Canberra. But there's going to be a little bit of an adventure with this one because my flight back to Melbourne tonight is at 10 to 7. So we need to get to Canberra Airport probably by about 6, quarter past 6 at the latest. So this could be entertaining.
Yeah, we're saying 5:24 at the moment.
Yes, it's saying 5:24 at the moment. And it's... So for those who aren't familiar, those who haven't watched any of my road trip videos before, maybe go watch some of my other road trip videos, but I'll give you the bare basics of road tripping in an electric car and in a Tesla. A few things to keep in mind. Number one, high speed, highway driving is the least efficient driving for an electric car. So your range is going to be affected by that. Also, temperature can sometimes affect it. Not going to be that much of an issue today because
No,
it's,
nice day, 15 degrees so far.
yeah, pretty pleasant. Doing something affects the range of all vehicles. So where this car at full charge would probably have about 300, 350.
About 300 k's,
Yeah,
yeah.
about 300 Ks. We're probably getting about 150 Ks out of each charge. And most superchargers along the way are about 200, 180 to 200 Ks away from each other. So we might have to do some little top-up stops at some non-supercharger chargers like some BPs or some Ampols or whatevers, just to top up a little bit along the way. Also keep in mind that this Model X is quite old. This is
2017.
2017. Oh wow, so this is a 7-year-old
Yeah,
car. So obviously the battery's not what it was when it first came out. Normally with electric car road trips, what I always suggest is don't charge past 80%, because the way that batteries work is that from 10 to about 80%, and Mark's an expert here, so he's going to correct me if I'm saying something wrong, and then if he's wrong, well, that's on him.
yeah.
Uh,
I am half asleep still.
okay, fair enough. And so from about 10 to 80%, they charge pretty quickly, but then from 80% to 100%, the charging rate of an electric car, most batteries, slows down quite dramatically. So if you're doing a long drive, it's actually better to get to the charger, charge really quickly to 80%, and then head off to the next charging location, because you could get from 10 to 80% in 20, 30 minutes, 10 minutes in some cars, whereas that 80 to 100% could then take another half an hour on top of that. So that's definitely the way to go. I'm not sure how we're going to do it with this car. Now also Teslas, if you haven't done this in a Tesla before, Teslas are actually really good in the sense that you just type in where you want to go and it will work out everything for you. So it's told us, what charging stops it's suggesting we stop along the way, how long we're going to need to charge, what percentage it thinks we're going to be when we get there. It's not entirely accurate, and obviously the car's got to be reminded, it's got to work out as we're going along that we're towing, 2.5 tons,
Yeah.
give or take, behind us.
Our watt hours per kilometre has substantially gone up.
Yeah. So, for example, when we left Melbourne this morning, the car was predicting that we would get here with about 30 to 31%. And as we started driving, that went lower and lower. At one point, it actually went up because I think maybe we went downhill and did some regenerative charging. I'll explain what that is in a little bit. But we got here with 0%.
Oh,
So,
no, we had one.
oh yeah, we had one. It was going between 1 and 0.
Yes.
Although also we did have to pull over at one point and go into one of the little towns on the side of the road because the trailer was wobbling a bit, and we just had to readjust where the car was on the trailer.
We loaded the car up at midnight roughly, so we had a big collection of errors. We kind of got locked in a car park, picking up the trailer.
I just want to say this was Mark and Shay.
Yes.
I only came in this morning.
No, you don't get to own any of the fun things we had. We then also, we were planning on charging at the Red Energy office, which we did. they've been really great, really supportive. But the charger that they said we could use was locked. It was you had to scan on to it,
Right.
and we didn't have the code, and it was pretty late at night. So we decided it was easier to go into the car park, unload the trailer, go into the car park, and plug it into one of the inside Tesla ones, which of course don't need a log on. So
also, what's nice is that because this is almost OG Model X here in Australia, this has got free supercharging for life.
yes,
So as long as we're using the Tesla superchargers, it doesn't cost us anything, which is nice. Speaking of which, so when we got here and we plugged in, the car was charging at about 130, 132 kilowatts. It's now dropped down to 66 kilowatts.
66.
And it's saying we still need to be here for another 20 minutes before we can keep going. Which, you know, this is actually really interesting because I'm used to my stops along this sort of route being a lot quicker. Because my Model Y can charge up to, I think, about 170. Realistically,
Yep.
it normally, like, you plug it in, it'll go to about 150, and then it'll drop down to 130, 120, and it'll get down to sort of 90 or what have you. Now, in terms of the charging information, interesting enough, this doesn't seem to want to show us percentage of how much percent it's at.
No, I'm not completely familiar with the car. So we've got here as a gauge just range. Actually, no, I think in the controls. No, just bear with me for a minute. There is
vehicle
or display.
Oh, display. Okay.
Yeah, and we can change that one to percentage. So currently we're on
we're at
61.
61%. So that's all right.
Yeah, so we've dropped the charging rate to half when we got to 60% roughly.
Yeah. So actually, so 60% into the battery in the amount of time we've been here, which is about 15 minutes we've been here. That's not bad at all. Now, most important, I know for viewers who are used to these videos, what snacks have I brought? Because as people will be familiar with my South African heritage, you cannot go on a long trip without patkos. And I do have a habit of getting random Asian snacks. So first of all, random Asian snacks. We've got
That's always potluck.
fruit jelly things. Which
That's okay.
I know those are really nice. This is a new one. So this is like sesame seed and poppy seed and walnut. If you're allergic to nuts, that's not good for you.
Probably okay.
Got selection of mochi. You can't go anywhere without mochi.
Yeah. I might pass.
Not. See, I love the texture. I'm guessing you don't.
Not really.
Okay, fair enough.
I'll try one. I'll go.
We then have. Oh, I got two of these.
Wow.
Okay, well
they must be good.
I've never tried them. I hope they're good. We got more fruit gummy candy.
Yep.
So that's good. I think that's actually everything I brought in terms of snacks. But then in terms of food, we have dry horse. Have you ever had dry horse before?
No.
So this is a type of it's in the biltong family.
Oh yes, in that case.
So if you're familiar with, but this is dry horse, so this is slightly different.
Like a dried sausage.
Yes.
Yes.
And then we have for breakfast we have egg salad sandwiches, and we've then got brisket sandwiches for lunch.
Fabulous.
So we're going to be here for another 20 minutes.
I can add to that.
You brought
because
stuff.
I got my swag from the GP. So not only did I get, it's tucked right at the back. So I got a backpack, hat, and T-shirt.
Oh, nice.
And golf balls, and no, they're not in my pocket anymore. Earplugs from Red Bull, and that was awesome.
Yeah.
But I also have, thanks to Red Energy from yesterday. Are you a fan of Rocky Road?
I am a big fan of Rocky Road.
There's definitely a Rocky Road each, I think.
Put that. Oh, and I've got some licorice as well in my other bag.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, there's definitely a Rocky Road each.
Excellent.
Breakfast of champions. And then I do have day-old jam donuts.
Depends how brave we're feeling later.
Yes. Look, if we're on the trip down, we ended up really late at night, which I hope we don't have. but if you're in
Fair
need of
enough.
sustenance, because we're, still half an hour out of Canberra, and it's we're in tears because we've missed your flight, then that'll keep us going. Otherwise, I've got the bog standard chips and drinks and that in there as well. And I did buy olives, and I
Oh,
thought,
I love me some olives.
yeah, I didn't want to leave them in the fridge. I thought I'd be nasty, and take them. Oh, and the other one that I'm not particularly fond of, and you're welcome to, is chocolate almonds.
Oh, yes, please.
There you go.
Oh, I love those.
That was
Thank you.
complimentary from the hotel.
Oh, wonderful.
So
It's a shame that like this video is going to be sort of like a mishmash of different. Like I've been wanting to do a video about.
oh, always tell them to go away.
I've been wanting to do a video about towing with an EV for ages. So this is kind of going to be that video, but it's not really, because I'd like to do a video about towing with an EV with a more modern EV to see what that experience is like, as opposed to a 7-year-old vehicle. So there's going to be elements of towing. There's going to be elements of a 7-year-old, the Model X. I drive a Model Y normally, but as soon as I sat in here, I noticed it's bigger. Like you feel the space. It's a shame that I can't get more footage of the actual car, but we're driving today. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. We will. One other little thing to mention is, and Chase sort of mentioned this earlier when I was talking to him, that I'm a big evangelist, you might almost say, about the theory that if you're driving from Adelaide to Melbourne to Sydney to Brisbane, the infrastructure's there. Like it exists now, in terms of there's plenty of charges, there's plenty of places to stop. That you don't even like. You're not. Very rarely do you have range anxiety or charger anxiety. Better with a Tesla. There's fewer options with a non-Tesla, but a lot of the Tesla charging locations are now open to non-Teslas. So
certainly in Victoria as well.
New South Wales a lot.
Yeah.
Quite a few in Victoria as well. So it's definitely along those arterial routes, it's better. But the one thing that we're not there yet, and I think, I'm not sure how to get there, but hopefully people are thinking about this. The infrastructure of charging your electric car when you're towing a trailer is not there at all. So our first charging stop this morning out of Melbourne, just to sort of gather our wits and also to set up the cameras, was at Airport West, and we managed to actually get in there fairly easy, but that was because there was a charger off to the side as opposed to in front of us, and we could sort of stretch the cable a bit. This one here, now there is a side charger, but that's designed more for cars with a bike rack. There isn't enough space behind it to have the trailer there, so we did do something quite douchey and sort of block a few spots here, but when we arrived there wasn't anyone here, so we thought it'd be all right. And we're right on the end, so we're blocking as few spots as possible.
And I've noted it up on Plugshare.
Yeah.
So, and I've got a DeLorean on the back of a Model X, so of course I'm going to put the photo up as well, so people know that we're here. We're still in the car. We're not. And even if we were just over the road in the park or something like that, it's not a.
Come and tell us
It's not
to
an
move.
issue. And if you even don't want to engage, all you have to do is send the message on Plugshare.
Yeah. For those who aren't aware, Plugshare is a website/app where you can see what charges are around, what's available, what's being used, and people can also check in. So we've checked in to say to people, we're here. If you need us to move, please let us move. So we're trying to be as polite and not douchey, I suppose, as possible about this. And yeah, I guess we'll see how we go, but I'm hungry, so let's turn the cameras off and we're going to eat.
Get stuck in.
Yeah, we'll catch up with you guys in a bit.
Cheers.
Welcome back, dear viewer. It has been an adventure. So for some reason, the car kept wanting us to go to the Wangaratta supercharger before well, first of all, it was saying we were going to go to Albany, which wasn't going to work because if we went there, it's in a shopping mall, so we can't actually get the trailer. Well, getting the trailer in there would have been complicated. So we know we have to come to Woodonga, and Albany's a little bit further than Woodonga. So in theory...
Albany?
Albany. What?
Albury.
Albury. Sorry.
Albany's hard to get to.
Oh.
That's in WA.
I'm so bad with pronouncing.
That's okay. We're tired.
Yeah. No, I
Don't trust your tired self.
watch my other videos. I'm quite notorious for getting this.
Oh, okay. Pronouncing your worms wrong.
Oh, no, still going straight.
Yeah. We've got 400 metres.
And then, we're back up to 1% predicted. Yay! So, anywho, I was going to go to Albury.
Albury.
It was saying go to Albury, which is even further than Woodonga. And we said, no, let's go to Woodonga. And then it kept saying, let's go to Wangaratta before we get to Woodonga, which is fine, except Wangaratta, the superchargers on the 3rd floor of a shopping mall.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
Yeah, with the trailer, that's not going to work, so left here.
Left here, yeah.
And yeah, so it was Woodonga or bust. And so we were driving, and the predicted range that we've got, battery percentage that we were going to have when we got there was sort of like sitting at, I think, about 17%. And we're going to go right at the circle again, so get over into the right-hand lane. Mm-hmm. And 17 became 16. You get the idea, so on and so forth. And eventually it got down to 1%, 2%, no, 2%, 1%. And then it said, slow down. We were doing about 100 on average, so about 100, 105. And it said, okay, you have to go under 100 to get to where you're going. So we slow down to 95. And then we were okay, but then we had to overtake a particularly slow car and trailer in front of us.
Slower than us.
And just that little bit of going back up over 100 a bit, then it went down to 0 again, predicted. And so we probably slowed down to about 90, 85 for the last 5 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And I've checked on the Tesla app, and it looks like there's only one car charging there, so we should be able to plug in no problem without blocking any people or anything like that. So yes, so it's been an interesting little journey to get here. Mark, anything to add?
Yes, it's very good that we need to take breaks to charge, because I'm after an early start, I'm getting a little bit tired.
Which is absolutely fair enough. Do you like it like this, or do you prefer it?
I like, seeing the direction I'm going in.
Yeah. Well, I know it from here. So interestingly enough, the Woodonga superchargers,
It's over there.
yeah, well, the Tesla superchargers in general are pretty poorly signposted. Like, I think there might be like a little A4 thing here, so just keep going straight.
Yeah.
And I think there's like a little A4 somewhere, but we basically have to go through the parking lot, and then it's through the parking lot. So where that car's coming out, I think that's where we're going.
Yeah. That rings a bell.
Yeah. So we're going left here. And now, and then just go straight through this parking lot. Yeah, so absolutely zero signage in terms of where the superchargers are. And they're just through here, and then you just go right, and they're right on the last sort of row of cars.
Wow, there's a few more people here than when I was here last time.
Yeah, there must be something on at the theatre or something.
There you go.
And this is going to be interesting. We're going to have to block a lot of charges now. Let's see how we go. So we almost have to sort of like jackknife ourselves a little bit.
Yeah.
But that car's been here for ages. So I reckon, okay, stop there. I reckon I'll see if the cable can reach.
Yeah.
And we've arrived with, I think, like 1 or 0%.
1 kilometre.
1 kilometre of range left. No, not going to reach.
Not going to reach?
Yeah, it's about 3-4 feet.
Okay.
So maybe, I think maybe.
Hang on, just close that one. Yep. No, not that one. Close all. Where's the?
Yeah, there we go.
And that one.
Do you want me to close this?
No, that should be all right. I like pressing the button.
Good. So I reckon try and back up a bit. So turn the wheel, like you were. So back up.
Yep.
Yep, so go back. And I'll go on the other side. Just open that window so I can talk to you. Yep, keep going, keep going, keep going. Yeah, you're good, you're good, you're good. Yep, keep going, you're good, you're good, you're good, you're good, you're good. Yeah, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Okay, stop. And
Then
now
come
straighten
in more.
out. Yeah, you're up against the bollard here, so straighten out, but straighten out a little bit. So you're coming in like that. Yep, now straighten out, straighten out, straighten out. Stop. Now straighten the wheel, straighten the wheel. Go back.
Okay.
Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Stop. Now turn that way.
Yeah. And
Yep, and now go. And now straighten out a bit. Yep, and now, yep, come in a bit more. That way now. Straighten out a bit. And we're going right up, like right up against this guy.
yeah.
Okay, I reckon that might. No, let me, no. This is.
Frustrating. All right, back it up again. How about
No, other way, I reckon.
other way?
Yep. Yep, keep going. Okay, now come in this way. It's these, nah, see, there's this bollardy thing here.
Yeah.
Straighten out, straighten out, straighten out, no, straighten, yep, yep, there we go. Yep, that's not, a little bit more that way if you can. Straighten out. That way now. Okay, that's, actually, I tell you what.
Can I bring the back into that one a bit more?
Yeah, okay, so turn the wheel that way. Yep. Yeah, this is, that's gonna work better. Yeah, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Keep going, keep going. More. Stop. Yes. Put it in park.
Put it in park. And we'll go find some coffee.
That was fun.
Oh, I'm getting squished into the. It's.
Now let me turn the cameras off.
Isn't there a predator tool that he suctions in and then?
Yeah. Well, that was an experience. So Mark's looking like he's incredibly snobby. He's actually having a power nap because he's had a very long week, to be frank. Okay, so we are at Holbrook. Again, it's interesting that, we've managed to sort of jackknife squeeze ourselves in here for a charge. We're going to be here for 25 minutes. We're getting decent charge rate, so we're getting 130 kilowatts, which is good. And it's going to be tight. So at the moment, the car is predicting that we should get to Canberra Airport at 6:23, and my flight is at 6:50. So if we could shave any time off of that, that'd be good, because I think check-in closes half an hour before on domestic flights. I don't know. I'll check. Well, yeah, I can check in, so that'll be good. But yes, it's going to be interesting. Not sure what else to cover. So again, it's getting into these charging spots that is really quite challenging. Also, by the way, anyone who's ever charged at Holbrook, there seems to be a red Model 3 right at the end. Every time I come here, it's always here and there's no one in there. So is it a display unit? I don't know. Not sure what else to say. It's been a fairly uneventful drive so far.
The best kind.
As Mark says, it's the best kind to be uneventful. Actually, I might just turn off. So little things that you can do to try and squeeze out a little bit more range. If the car's going to be parked for quite a while, you can turn off Sentry mode, and we're not going to really need Sentry mode while we're on this drive, so I can just turn that off for Sentry mode. Also, aircon will affect your range. So if you've got the aircon going really hard, that can draw a fair bit from the battery. In fact, if you've watched some other videos in some non-Tesla vehicles, the Kia EV6 actually shows you, when you turn the air conditioning on, how much range you have if you had it off and on, which is sometimes quite dramatic, up to 100 kilometers, apparently, according to that. So yes, we've put 10 kilowatt hours into the car already. The charge rate has slowed down a bit. Something quite interesting, and I might play some B-roll over this, is that with the older Model S's and Model X's, they don't have the CCS2 plug, the two and thing on top. So with the older superchargers, that's fine because they've got a plug for these cars. But for the newer superchargers like these, there's actually an adapter that you can get if you've had the plug converted on the car, which this one has. So I'll show you what that adapter looks like. Really straightforward, really simple to use. In terms of charging it and setting up the charge, just plug in and away you go. Really nice thing. I can't remember if I mentioned it before, but because this is one of the older Model X's and Model S's in Australia, this has got free supercharging for life of the car. So it's just gonna, all the charging that we're doing is absolutely free, which is great. So yeah, so we've got 25 minutes to have a little bit of a kip here and a little bit of a rest. Then next up after this is Gundagai, and after that is Yass, and then hopefully Canberra Airport with me catching my flight home. Little update, so we've got 6 minutes until we can disconnect and get on our journey. We actually, the person that read Model 3 did show up, a lovely fella, and he very kindly moved back a little bit so that I could move forward and give a bit of space, because I got really close to that Model 3.
It was fine.
You've got a lot more faith in me than I do. In terms of...
Sometimes it's better not to know.
This is true, but when I got out, I looked and I knew.
Yes.
Now, little bit of a worry pot that I am. So at the moment, the car is predicting that we should get, it was saying we were going to get to Canberra Airport at 6:26. Now my flight boards at 6:20 and takes off apparently at 6:50. So 6:26 was not going to work. Somehow from unplugging and replugging in, which should mean it would take longer, but maybe the charge, I don't know, I'm not going to ask. But now apparently we're going to get there at 6:16, which is kind of technically okay. In terms of what to do, so I've brought up the little consumption little app here, and I'll just take my phone out and film it with my phone a little bit so you can get a better indication of what's going on with it. Because and actually maybe Mark, maybe you can give me a better idea of how this works.
No, this is your field of expertise.
Oh, we're stuffed.
Yes.
So at the moment, our projected range is 136 kilometers, and we are 123 kilometers away from Gundagai. So theoretically, if we left now, we'd get there with 10 Ks in the tank. But the car is being conservative and saying that we should still charge for another 5 minutes. I'm of two minds, because on the one hand, I'm always glad to charge that little bit more so that you've got a little bit less stress when you're getting closer and it's getting to 1 to 0 to what have you. And I think that this silly thing, which is predicting that we're going to get there at 6:17, is predicting that we're going to be doing 110 in the 110 zone.
Yes.
And if we do 110, we're not going to make it to Gundagai.
No. Which means we'll be really late.
Yeah. I actually just said to Mark before we started recording, I said, I might be a bit cheeky, and if it's okay with you, have a chat to people charging at Gundagai and at Yes when we get to both those locations. Go, are you going to Canberra? And see if I can bum a ride with them, because they'll be able to do the speed limit and get there a lot quicker. But at the moment, it's looking like I might just make my flight, but also probably not. So yeah, let's see how we go. Few things about towing. A nice little thing is that up in the corner in the dash here, it actually shows you that you are towing, so the car knows that you're towing. Another really handy thing with towing in a Model X is because it's got the suspension, you can lower and raise the suspension to make it easier depending on where your trailer is and where your trailer isn't, and sort of all that sort of stuff. So that's pretty good. Obviously you can't do that while you're driving. You've got to hit the brake to enable and do it while the car's still. An unfortunate thing with towing with a Tesla is it turns off autopilot. So you do still get cruise control, but that lane keep assist side of autopilot switches itself off, which is not the end of the world, but it is really nice to have that on the longer drives. Yeah. Now we're going to unplug in 3 minutes and get going. It's going to be interesting to see how we go.
250k range to make it 123 k's.
But
So
again, sort of half that, so
halving.
240.
Yep.
So 246 could make it, but that's assuming a fair bit. So
So we're averaging 374 watt hours per kilometre, which is, again, it's roughly about twice the amount. So we are consuming a lot more with this car, but you know, we're towing
2.5 tons, give or take.
Yeah, ton for the trailer. Yeah, 1.4 for the car.
Okay, yeah. So almost the rated, because this is rated for 2.5.
It
So
is.
we're just in there. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. A couple of donuts in the car bit that we. Let me try
Try
that
again.
Yeah. A couple of extra donuts in the DeLorean, and we'd be over the limit.
I do have two here we can toss out.
but they're in here. You know what? It's always. Do you remember those old movies? All the different movies of Around the World in 80 Days, and when they're on the ship going from the US to Europe, and they start burning the ship and throwing things overboard. And I have visions of like it's throwing bags out on the way.
Yeah. Well, I think the donuts is about the only thing I have that's sacrificial. Maybe that extra bag of the snacks.
Yeah.
That might be about it. We're kind of like I have. Admittingly, I've brought a lot of tools as well, but
They're heavy. It's your fault.
it is my fault. But they also are valuable and they keep me going. So.
Okay, so we're gonna stop charging in about 2 minutes and get going, and fingers crossed somehow we pick up some time somewhere, and if we could just get there at 6:10, I'd be semi-relaxed.
Yes.
But yeah, let's see how we go. Hey, and I'm here in the office. Where do I start? Okay, so let me tell you what happened. That was Monday. This is now Thursday. It's been a busy week, but so let's discuss what ended up happening. We got to Gundagai. It was really interesting. So when we left Holbrook, the car was predicting we were going to get to Gundagai with 14%, and I wasn't willing to drive slow, so I was going between 105 and 110 the whole way. And I started at 110, and the predicted range of battery percentage of how much we'd have when we get to Gundagai went from 14 to 12 to 9 to 8. So I slowed down to 105, and I don't know whether it's uphill or downhill or what was going on, but basically we stayed at 105, and the car just kept predicting we'd get to Gundagai with about 8 to 9%. It dropped to 6 at one point, but it sort of hovered around 8, and we got there with 8. So that was fine. The problem was when we got to Gundagai, the car was still predicting that we were going to get to the airport in Canberra at 6:26, which was at least 6 minutes too late. Also, the parking in Gundagai, so again, there was, cars on the edge, and there's a car, so we had to, again, sort of like jackknife ourselves in. I'll show you a quick video now, actually, of what the situation that was there, and how ideally we would have been right on the end, but we didn't, so here we go. See, ideally we would have gotten that one on the end, because we can just come in there and just take that space and then leave everything there, but because we couldn't, we had to come in here, and now this nice gentleman here is trying to get in and we're blocking the space, so yeah, a bit of a mess. So yeah, so that was the parking situation. We managed to plug in, everything was fine, and yeah, wasn't gonna make it. So I actually, as we got there, the people in the Model 3, which was just in front of us, the red Model 3, they were getting out of their car, and I said, "Oh, hey, how's it going? Like, are you coming? Are you going?" And they said, "Oh, we're on our way back to Canberra from the Grand Prix in Melbourne." And I said, "Oh, cool, great. Forgive me if this is a little bit cheeky, but can I get a lift to the airport in Canberra, please?" And they said yes. Lovely couple, Matt and Joe. Hi, Joe from Canberra. Thank you again so much for the lift. We had a really great chat on the way. Mark was actually, it actually worked out really well because Mark then said, look, if you go now, go with them, that's absolutely fine. And that way he's not rushed for time and he can sort of just take his time to get to stop, finish up at Gundagai, then stop at Yes, charge what he needs to, and then, get home sort of thing. So all's well that ends well. Although, so because we didn't have to stop in Yes to charge with the Model 3 because we weren't towing anything, I got to the airport at 5:24. So I got there like an hour earlier than I needed to. And of course, my flight was delayed by about 45 minutes. So we could have just, kept going and I would have made it just fine. But of course, the way that fate and luck and all that sort of things works, that if I hadn't have gotten the ride with the lovely Matt and Joe, then my flight wouldn't have been delayed and all of that. So, summation, what are my thoughts? Loads of thoughts. So to begin with, keep in mind we were delayed quite a lot. So we actually were planning to leave Melbourne at 5 o'clock in the morning. So here was the plan. The plan was the car was gonna the trailer was gonna be connected to the Model X. The Model X was going to be charged up to 100%, and we were going to leave Melbourne at 5 o'clock in the morning. That was the plan. Unfortunately, Mark got up a bit later. Took him a while to get a cab to meet me, so he only met me at the car and the trailer and he had all the keys to get in and all that sort of stuff. So he only met me there at about 5:30 ish. The trailer wasn't connected to the Model X. They weren't able to plug the car in overnight, so the Model X was down to about 90%. So the fact that we had to connect the trailer, we didn't leave Melbourne until about 5:45, 6ish. So we were already an hour late. And because we didn't have that extra little 10% of the battery, we then just had to stop just for a little while at Airport West just to top it up to get us to Euroa. Then on the way to Euroa, we had to stop for about half an hour to pull the car forward, because while we're driving, Mark was noticing that the car was wobbling, the trailer was wobbling a bit, and we could definitely hear noise, like the car was kind of quite bumpy. And so what we did is we had to pull over and readjust and just pull the car as a bit more forward so that the weight of the DeLorean was more on the connection between the trailer and the car. And once we did that, no more bumping, it was absolutely fine. But again, that cost us about half an hour. So all in all, we were about an hour and a half later than we wanted to. So if we hadn't have left late, if we didn't need to do that extra little charge at Airport West and we didn't have to stop to readjust the trailer, we would have made it to Canberra Airport, no problem whatsoever. But that's that. My overall thoughts about towing. A few caveats to keep in mind. I know I am a bit of an apologist. I am. I wanted this to work, and it did, but there's definitely quite a few challenges here. So the fact that the car was 7 years old, battery's not what it was, but let's say no matter what age your car or your battery is, generally if you're towing 2.5 tons, it's going to halve your range. So keep that. So that's something to keep in mind. So I think long drives with towing, if you have to stop and do fast charging along the way, it's doable, but it's really not convenient. The biggest issue for me was the fact that none of the chargers are set up in a way that it's easy to get the car in with a trailer and charge at the same time without blocking a whole bunch of other charging ports. Also, in those situations where we had to kind of like, in fact, almost all the charging stops where you had to sort of jackknife yourself in, to do it with one person is possible, but just having that second person to get out of the car and guide you in makes it a lot easier. So there's that. Interestingly, I was chatting to Matt and Joe on the way to Canberra about this, and they said, with their Model 3, they tow quite a lot, quite often. And they said for city towing, like if you're just, having a little trailer and you're carrying some stuff, some furniture, what have you, the electric car is actually much better. And here's why. Because it's got that power and that extra torque, pulling the trailer, getting it up a hill or anything like that is an absolute non-issue. And in hindsight, when I thought about it, when they said that, I suddenly thought, oh, actually, you know what? I mean, when we were driving the X, we're towing 2.5 tons behind us, and the 2 or 3 times when we had to overtake someone, so we had to do 110, maybe a touch over, yeah, you put your foot down and the car just went. It definitely wasn't as zippy as if you weren't towing, but it wasn't as if we couldn't access the power that we needed. It was just that it affected the range of the car. So from a power point of view, I think if you're towing around town where you're not going to have to stop for a fast charge, not an issue. If you, let's say, were towing a trailer, let's say my Model Y. So my Model Y range is about 400, 350 Ks, depending on how you're driving, all that kind of stuff. And so if we were towing, let's say I needed to go somewhere that's 100, 150 Ks away, we're going camping. Let's say I can find a camper that's, I think my car is rated to tow 1.5 tons or 1 ton. I'm not sure what the rating is, but let's say you're towing that, you get there. So you use half your range to get to the campsite. I mean, when you get to the campsite, you are going to unplug. You could charge overnight. You can just use a slow charge or what have you, and then drive back whenever you drive back. So as long as you can get to where you're going with half your range, it's a non-issue, I think. But if you are, let's say, going from one city to another, or you need to drive more than 150, 200 kilometers in a single go, it's doable. But I've got to admit right now, just because of how the charges are set up, it's it's doable, but it's a real pain in the tush. So yeah, I suppose I hope that was useful. I hope that was helpful. I'm sure there'll be plenty of comments down in the comments below. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that I wanted to bring up. No, I think that's pretty much it. Look, the Model X. This is the first time I've actually driven a Model X or driven in a Model X. You get it, like you can. It's a very nice car. It's such a shame that you can't get them in right-hand drive anymore because I mean, look, I couldn't afford it anyway. But it's it's pretty cool. Like even just the automatic. Well, the automatic doors are kind of cool. Like the gull door wings, but the front doors are also automatic. Like you can open the doors. Something that they're not great at. So when we were in Euroa, I was reaching into I was like, okay, so the front door was open, the driver door. So I was leaning in to sort of do something with one of the cameras. And Mark walked away with the key in his pocket. And so the car thought the key was going away. So oh, I'll close the door, and closed the door on me. It was safe though, because I mean, it closed the door, but as soon as it noticed that I was there, it stopped, and it was very gentle. It didn't hurt me or anything. But yeah, if someone who's walking away with the keys and someone else standing in the door, it could be a little bit smarter than that. Maybe a sensor or something. I don't know. Yeah, so the Model X, very nice. Such a shame that. Also, thank you to EVEE, which they do ride sharing. Not ride sharing, sorry. So they do car rentals, electric car rentals. So you rent other people. It's like Airbnb, but for cars. Not a sponsored link. I've got no relationship with them, but they very kindly gave Mark and Shay use of the Model X to tow the DeLorean down to Melbourne and back up to Canberra. Also, interestingly enough, Mark was saying that the way that we did it, we probably shaved at least 2 charging stops off of the trip that they did down, because he was saying, like, once he'd driven down, he was more confident with the car, that he knew that if it was going to get to 0, we still had a little bit in the tank. And so he was perfectly comfortable to get to 1 or 0 at each charging locations. And he knew he could sort of trust it more. And so we actually did it in fewer charges on the way there than they did on the way down. Yeah, I'm just blathering on now. I hope this video was, it's just because it's really interesting, because I hope this has been, it definitely was an eye-opening experience for me. Yeah, I'm sure the people who are grumpy about EVs will be, oh, you see, you can't tow, and blah, 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 blah. And the people who are very keen on EVs will be, well, you see, absolutely, he made it, blah, blah. I think you're both right and you're both wrong. I think it's totally possible to tow with an electric car. I think it's advantageous if you've got heavy loads, because you've got that extra oomph. So like to get up a hill or anything like that, it's totally cool. The bit that could be better is, I mean, the range, I don't think there's much that you can do about that, because towing is towing. And keep in mind, very often when you see diesel or petrol cars towing a big caravan on the highway, they're generally going a fair bit slower, because you have to go slower, because it affects range of everything, no matter what. And if we went slower, we would have had far more range. So, we were trying to do this at 100 to 105 to 110 at some point. So, yeah, again, the biggest issue is just getting the charging location. And so ideally it'd be nice if when companies who are looking at putting in charging locations, if you're putting in 4 or 5 chargers, maybe with the 5th one, have it off to the side in a place where you can, bring in a car with a trailer and you don't have to block off all the other ones. So, but then you'd have to have it sort of something in the middle, because unfortunately different cars have got plugs on different sides. And so it's not that complex, but it does have complexities in terms of a problem that needs to be solved and in terms of how to solve it. So I appreciate that it takes a bit of thinking, and you've got to consider variables and all that kind of stuff, and so on. So voiceover lead jumping in here just to mention that someone just sent me these images of a new supercharging location in Western Australia, which is a perfect example of how you could set up superchargers, just 1 or 2 or 3 in addition to what's there, that's set up for charging with a trailer, which is, this looks like it would work great. Would love to know all of your thoughts down in the comments. If you have, hopefully you have found this helpful. If you have found this useful. If you have, please like and subscribe. If you've already subscribed, thank you so much for your support, and we'll catch you next one. So, before I go, huge thank you to Mark and Shay for inviting me to join them on this little journey. So I really appreciate that. And with that, safe and happy driving. Now, little follow-up story for all you fine cats who've hung around till the end. I tell you this because I'm an idiot and I hope you can learn from my mistakes. The reason why I didn't film the rest of the stuff at Canberra Airport when I got there, I was just so exhausted and so stressed. It had been a very long day and I was just like, I don't feel like filming. I just want to sit here. I was actually editing some other work for a client at the airport, and then I just wanted to get on the plane, go home. And here's a little story for you, so you don't make the same mistakes that I do. So I got to the airport. I landed in Melbourne. Again, long day. I just wanted to get in a cab, get back to my car that I'd left at the Red Energy offices where we picked everything up in the morning, and go home. And I don't know if you've been to Melbourne Airport recently, but they've changed things around. I haven't flown into there for a while. And I got out of the airport and I was like, where's the cab ranks? And the cab ranks like way down, flew with Virgin, so they're way down on the other side. And I'm walking where sort of cab ranks would normally be, and it's all Uber. And I thought, I just didn't feel like it. Like I didn't know what. So I'm walking by and this guy walks past, and I know, whenever someone approaches you at an airport and goes, hey, do you want a ride? Do you want a cab? You just go, no, walk away. I was tired and I thought, as a social experiment, let's just see how much this costs me. So he's like, oh yeah, I've got a silver service cab. Yeah, no problem. I can take you. So I thought, okay. And I didn't ask how much. Again, I'm a moron. Don't do what I do. Because I was actually kind of curious to see how much he would rip me off by. And so from Melbourne Airport to Cremorne, which is a sort of Richmond area, that's just past the CBD. So it's really like that should be 40, 50 bucks maybe in a cab, maybe even less. $110. What a ripoff. It is what it is. So I hope that was helpful for you as well. I will catch you in the next one.